Good morning, AP Lit. This is Mr. Taylor, and I am going to talk to you a little bit today about the sources that you can use for your Flannery O'Connor paper. So I'll begin with saying that just recently I read a collection of Flannery O'Connor short stories, and I talked to Mr. Ryan King about it. And he's like, you should share a little bit about that. So I'll begin now with my introduction. Over the summer, I'm in a book club, and we just pick a different book to read it every month. And we decided to read some Flannery O'Connor. I had only read a few of the short stories. A Good Man is Hard to Find, and that's the collection we read. So my impressions of Flannery O'Connor and what we kind of discussed in the group was a lot about how much the stories make her seem like a misanthrope. There's these kind of nasty, unlikable characters, and they're funny, and the stories are funny. But at the same time, you have these people that it's hard to find a likable character, even in the whole collection. And we read about 10 different stories. And in the whole collection, there was only like one or two even sort of likable characters. Even the children and the old people are all sort of annoying or just outright kind of bad, and hypocritical, and all those elements that kind of come out in Flannery O'Connor. Some of the stuff is obvious. That kind of the gothic sort of themes and things like that, and the religious connections, but also what really stood out and what I remember from reading it a few months ago and from each of the stories as I was thinking over them again was just how many of the characters just seem to make choices that hurt other people or are kind of selfish and but yet proclaim to be good. And that's that like good country people. A good man is hard to find. This idea of goodness, and then the actual actions that go behind it. Sort of that idea that actions speak louder than words. Kind of where in O'Connor you see that they will a lot of these characters say one thing, but then do something else. So I wanted to share that a little bit with you, just to give you some context, so that you knew that I read these stories too. I did enjoy them, even though we picked up on a lot of of negative themes. The stories were quick to read and in a way kind of easy. A lot of really quick, but also gave you something to think about, and great twists and kind of turns to keep you interested in the stories. So all right, so that's my intro as far as O'Connor goes. Now I'm going to actually talk about the resources. So I'm going to show you two databases. Ones you're probably familiar with, and nothing that you maybe haven't used before, but maybe forget how to get to, or maybe forget how to navigate. I'll begin though with two books. We have two books that are collections of O'Connor criticism, and so one of them is readings on Flannery O'Connor, and then we have one that's called Bloom's Modern Critical Views. So these two books have a bunch of articles in them, and I'm going to give these to Mr. Ryan King, and he'll have them available. You'll have to ask him for a copy if any of these articles sound good to you, or like you might want to use it. I'm just going to tell you the titles of some of these pieces of criticism, and you can kind of just listen and think, I want a copy of that one, if it sounds like something that would help you as you're writing your paper. So these are just some of the again criticism titles. So we have in this collection, we have The First Great Modern Writer from the South, O'Connor's Challenge to Her Readers, Emblematic Moments in O'Connor's Fiction, O'Connor's Bleak View of Human Nature, O'Connor's Place in the Literary Tradition of the South, Representations of Race in O'Connor's Work, the Role of Grace in O'Connor's Fiction, Violence in O'Connor's Work, O'Connor's Use of the Grotesque, O'Connor questions the value of beauty, psychology in Everything That Rises Must Converge, the comic redemption in Revelation, a critical study of A Good Man is Hard to Find, a contrasting view of A Good Man is Hard to Find, prophecy in the displaced person, and Parker's Back, the transformation of an unbeliever. So again, all of those came from readings on Flannery O'Connor, and that's from Greenhaven Press. The other collection is Bloom's Modern Critical Views. This one, again, I'll go over the titles. There aren't quite as many, and then I'll show you the database. So this one is begins with coming unalone, gesture and gestation in Faulkner and O'Connor, apocalypse of self, resurrection of the double, Flannery O'Connor's The Violent Buried Away, intellectuals and would-be artists, the action of mercy, backwards to Bethlehem, evangelicalism in Flannery O'Connor's Wise Blood, the prophet and the word in the desert, climbing into the starry field and shouting hallelujah, O'Connor's vision of the world to come, Flannery O'Connor, funny because it is terrible. And then finally, O'Connor and the body, incarnation, redemptive suffering, and evil. All right, so again, you can go back and listen to those again. If any of them sound like titles that you would like to get your hands on, please ask Mr. Ryan King. He has the copies to the books, and he can get those for you. Now, for me, I am going to show you the databases. There are two. Again, both probably familiar. One is the Gale Literature Sources. The other is Jstor. So let's go there. You can go to the speed dial page, and the link for the library is right off of that page. If you scroll down, go down here to high school, and then the database tab is right up here at the top. Well, before I go into the databases, just a reminder that the password sheet is down here at the bottom. If you're working on this from home and you're in JSTOR or in Gale Literary and you get that password notification that you need to type it in, they're down here and they're available. All right, so Gale Literature. If we go in here to this collection, you have a few options as far as searching goes. You can do the advanced search and jump right into looking for a specific title or name of the work that you want. And that's not a bad way to go. You can go in here, name of work, if you know what you want to use. If you want to type in, it might work better if you use O'Connor and then you're sort of thinking like, what's your key word for the theme that you're working on, and try a couple different keywords. Maybe you're looking at like some of these talked maybe the humor in O'Connor, or maybe some of the religious aspects in O'Connor. You'll want to find variations, different ways to search for those keywords. You could just do, and one thing you can try is, and we'll type in here Flannery O'Connor. You see, you get some biographies that come up. I'm just going to do a general search for her, but I want to show you, partly because I want to show you the search options here on the side. So I get 2,200 review. This is just kind of way too many, almost useless amount of returns for a search, but you can filter over here. So you can begin filtering by subject. You can begin filtering by, and maybe this will even help you to sort of think of what you want to focus on. Here's Catholicism. And there's feminism. You're probably best served. I mean, of course, you can look at some of the specific short stories. You can see Good Man is Hard to Find. There's 78. So you're probably best served to really have an idea of what you want to explore in O'Connor first, and then go from there. Just a general rule, it always sort of give this recommendations with literature, but try to avoid those ones that may compare O'Connor to an author that you haven't read. You don't want to read an essay where half of the essay you don't really understand because you haven't read any of those authors. Here's irony and O'Connor. I think that that could definitely be something to explore. Once you do find one, we'll go into the sacramental irony of Flannery O'Connor. It sounds pretty good. Once you found one that you like, you do have some options here to help you cite it. You can download the article if you would, if you want to make sure that you have it available on your computer, and that way you can keep it even loaded into Google Drive if you want to. And so some of those tools are available to you there. All right, so that's Gale Literature. The other databases I mentioned is Jstor. So Jstor is a little bit farther down on the list. Here we go, Jstor Academic Journals. If you've ever used Jstor, you have probably heard me say, and I say this over and over again, please, 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 if you use Jstor, use the advanced search. It makes it such a better database in so many ways. A lot of people come back very frustrated with Jstor because they can't find anything. So how does the advanced search help? Well, I'm going to again do kind of a generic search here for O'Connor. But if I scroll down here, I can narrow the results. And narrowing the results, there's too many journals that are on JSTOR. So if we narrow the results to articles and books, it cuts out some of the theater reviews that we would get. And this can be particularly helpful. The big one, though, and the one that I would really recommend that you go down and click is to find where it is indicates language and literature for discipline and select that. Once you do that, it kind of turns JSTOR into a literature database rather than a one of any of these other subjects databases. So now we're in language and literature, and instead of looking up, history, we're much more focused. That can make a big difference. I'm going to go ahead and do the search again. I did kind of a generic one with Flannery O'Connor. So again, we get 1900 results, and it comes down to that next key term. What do you want to add to your search in order to narrow it down? Is it irony? Is it religion? Is some of the other things that the elements that you guys talked about in class that you'd like to explore? Something you noticed in her writing? Um, I mentioned the idea of like the children and the older people. She has these characters. The idea of the misanthrope. I mean, if I was looking up something that might be an idea that I would explore, like her presentation of sort of the hypocrisy of people. I don't know. So those could be some options for you. There is a search within results, and usually this used to work great, and lately it isn't working, so you may have to go up here and just redo your search from the top. So don't get frustrated if this seems like it doesn't narrow anything down, because lately I've had a lot of trouble with it, and I don't know if it seems like that's kind of a JSTOR problem. Again, once you find an article that you like, okay, so there are Flannery O'Connor resurrected, Flannery O'Connor's devil, maybe. So we'll click on this and see if you were to decide that this was an article that was useful for you. You can download the PDF again. There are things to help you. There are resources here to help you cite. So you've got all of that available. Again, 2 books, 2 databases. There's more than enough articles out there on O'Connor from reliable sources, from places where you can get some good ideas about the major points in O'Connor's works. So if you have any trouble, or if something comes up and it's not working for you, or anything that I just showed you now is not really functioning the way it should, send me an email and I'll look into it. Otherwise, good luck with your paper. If I see you, hopefully I'll see you at some point soon. But maybe we could talk about O'Connor and your thoughts. So have a great day, and hopefully I do see you soon. Thanks. Bye.